Hello guys and welcome to my channel. Today I decided to do a real-time video and with all the explanations, and well, you asked for it, you said you actually like that, so I decided to do another one for you. And well, I suppose all the materials we will be using will be listed down in the description box. I will show you right now how the finished painting looks, so that you know what we will be painting. First thing I did, I sprayed my palette with water so to prepare my paint. And next thing I'm gonna do, well, this is going to be pretty easy painting, so you should not, well, expect anything much. We will just have fun and do this one, I think, pretty quickly. So we will be using the color that it's going to be a #1 color, and actually probably the only color next to neutral black and white gouache. We're gonna use indigo, and as I said, this is going to be our main color. And well, I'm gonna use one from the tube this time because I want it to be creamy, but of course you can use one from a pan, and you will just need a bit more elbow grease to get it out of the pan, because we will be needing a lot of indigo. So next thing we're gonna do is spray our paper and wet it. So we're gonna wet it pretty fairly. You don't have to be shy with the water this time. It should be pretty wet, not actually floating in water, but pretty damped. Yes, it should be wet. So I'm gonna use a big round brush. This one is number 12. So the bigger you have, that's great. You can also use a mop brush. I do have a quite large mop brush, but I'm not really used to it. I'm not using it that much. So I'm gonna stick to my round brush, and we're gonna take that indigo. See how beautiful and vibrant that is. And just gonna start from upper corner downwards and maybe come back. So just take as much paint as you want. You know, I do want to make as less layer as possible, so I think we're gonna do only 2 layers. I'm aware of the fact that a lot of you actually don't have the cotton watercolor paper, and well, I suppose you shouldn't be doing too much layers, because the paint will be lifting, and I'm aware of that. So we're gonna do as little layer as possible. So as you can see, I'm using less pigment and just making it lighter. And here you see I'm starting to get some puddles because I used too much water here, but it doesn't matter, we will just pick it up. Just keep in mind that watercolors, of course, dry lighter. So if it does look maybe too dark, it actually won't be when it's dry. So there you go. Just one more time downwards to make that beautiful transition. And I suppose that is the first layer done. I'm just gonna take the paint from here so it doesn't pour back into my painting. The water doesn't go back. Just take this and that's it. Simple as that. We're gonna dry it now with the dryer. Yes, one more thing, I'm gonna move this because my paint here is creamy. It's out of the tube, and it doesn't matter if it's out of the tube or out of a pan, it is still wet. And if you leave it next to your painting while drying it with a fan, it will probably dry in your palette. And this time I really don't want it to dry it. I want this one to stay wet, especially as it's from tube. So when you do have paint and you leave it, it will dry. You will have to use more water to again re-wet it, and of course in that way you will also make it more transparent and less pigmented, and that is not what I want, so I'm gonna move this. So just keep that in mind when you're using a fan next to your palette. And now I'm gonna go with that. Okay, now this is completely dry, and I'm gonna bring back my palette, and we're gonna do the second layer, but this time we won't pre-wet our paper. We will just take some water into our brush and, well, again, pick up some pigment. Again, as well, I suppose as much as you can. And we're gonna start from the top. And as I said, we did not pre-wet the paper this time because we want the pigment to stay our paint to stay fairly saturated. And if we would pre-wet it again, then of course we would add water to our paint twice, once in a palette when picking up one with the brush, and second time of course with the one that is on our paper from pre-wetting. So as I said, I don't want to water it. I don't want to make it more transparent and less pigmented, so I did not pre-wet my paper. But that also means that you have to be careful to work that pretty fast so your edge doesn't dry. And, well, if it does dry, it will leave that line, and of course we don't want that. So now I'm just picking up the water without the pigment and going downwards. There is some pigment still in my brush, and I don't want this part to be any darker. I like it just the way it is. I really want this part to be fairly light. So maybe just a little bit on the top. And you know, it dries lighter. I'm like a parrot, I'm just repeating that all the time, but you know, well, when you repeat it all the time, I'm sure you remember it. And, well, that's our second layer. And we won't do any more layers. Doesn't matter how pigmented or how dark this will dry. I won't do any more layers. When we add white gouache, the stars, that will pop, I promise. So I'm picking up again the paint from the sides so it doesn't pour back into my painting, and from the top. But I'm being careful not to go into my painting because I would pick up the pigment, and that is not what I want. And I will dry it again and I'll come back. Well, hello, I'm back. This is completely dry. I dried it with a hair dryer. If you're patient enough to leave it to dry naturally, well, that is also fine, even better. I'm not that patient, so I'm almost always drying it with my hair dryer. And, well, I just wanted to say one more thing. If you can see, I'm not sure. I think you can, but I'm not really sure. Maybe better with this camera. I'm gonna show you. See, there are some differences there. That is, the transition is not so perfect. You can see maybe here and here that there are just some darker parts in the paint. It's not perfectly even, but well, I just wanted to tell you that you should not be bothered with that. That doesn't really matter, because as long as you don't have the big blotches like black and very light or something like that, as long as you don't have that, this is just really nothing to be worried about. When we add white gouache, the stars, that will disappear. It won't be as much as visible as it is right now. The reason for that is because I guess I had a little bit more water in some parts, and my paper did warp a little bit, and well, the water went into some parts of it more, some parts of it less. So I end up with some differences in the sky. Oh my god. So I just wanted to tell you that that is nothing to be worried about, so don't bother yourself with that. Next thing we're gonna do is gonna take, oh, I'm gonna show you, I'm using white knights, if I didn't say. I'm gonna take quite amount here. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna take quite amount of neutral black. Someone once told me I'm not really, well, how do you say it? That I'm not careful, but gentle. I'm not really gentle with my brushes. Well, I suppose I'm not. So I think they're here to be used, and well, I'm enjoying myself too much, and I don't want to think just are my brushes happy all the time or not. So right now I'm painting my land, and as you could have seen, I took quite amount of pigment, and again this large round brush, and so far you could have seen with that is the only brush we've used, and I don't think we're gonna use much more the other brushes. I'm sorry, I'm just focused on doing this. So here's some edges, so to be careful with the edges, not to go overboard. And we want this to be fairly dark. You know, maybe I should have painted my moon first, but it doesn't matter. You can always go back with the black and add it at the end. And that is what we're gonna do. Now I'm gonna dry that and come back. So now this is fairly dry, and again, as you can see, there are discoloration in my mountain, but it doesn't matter. We will go back and make it a little bit darker when we finished with our moon. Next thing we're gonna do that, we're gonna paint the moon, and for that I will be using, I think I will be using this one. I want that to be, maybe I'm thinking, maybe even a bigger one. No. This one is going to be fine. So I'm gonna take some pencil and draw a circle, and I'm not really pressing too hard. This is an HB pencil, so it's not really light, and wow, this one is not that visible, but it shouldn't be visible. So now we're gonna paint our moon, and this time I am going to take a little bit smaller brush, and here you can see we have white gouache. I think I have some leftover paint from previous painting in my brush, and I'm gonna take a lot of white gouache. As you can see, this one is hardened, it dried, so I have to do a little bit more to pick it up. But if you have a fresh gouache, you won't have this much trouble. And I'm gonna place this here and start with my moon, and just be careful to follow the line. Go as slow as you need. Again, it doesn't really have to be perfect, just as much round as it can be. I'm not going to try to avoid my mountain because I'm gonna add a bit more black when we're finished with our moon. So like this, and I'm gonna now go back and just, you know, move that edge. I don't want the edge from the paint, and I'm gonna pick up the more more white gouache and go on the other side. And as you can see, it's not really perfect, but it doesn't matter. So, like this. Maybe you have something to use to place, to paint inside. That is also fine. I used to do that, you know, also. I had this stencil that I used and painted inside. So if you have a stencil, you could also use it to do a circle. That is fine. Whatever makes it comfortable for you. You don't have to do everything the same as I do. You just do how it makes it comfortable for you. So we don't have to have the same amount of white everywhere, and that is also fine. Just don't want the edges, because, well, the moon is different and has variations in color. So you don't have to really have it all the same. And you know, when this one dries, it will be again pretty much lighter, but I don't really want to do much layers on the moon also, so I did use quite amount of white wash to, well, make it as bright as possible on the first go. And like this, I'm just doing this. Well, see, I'm just picking up the paint here and there. And maybe adding some in some parts, you know, the white. I think this will be fine. Well, next thing we're gonna do, and we're not gonna wait this one to dry. So that is the reason that I said maybe I should have done the mountain last, but you know, I'm an impulsive painter. I just start and just do. Sometimes I should be thinking more, but I don't. I just do how I feel. And some people also ask me, do I always use a reference photo when painting? Well, I almost always do use a reference photo when painting, when doing tutorials. So this is, I'm using, that's just maybe too much water. And I'm almost always using reference photo when I'm making tutorials, because you know, when I paint from my head, it's just I'm just so much impulsive painter, and I just never know how that would turn out. And if I would be painting every single painting and making tutorials from my head, I'm pretty sure I would be left with a lot of footage that I really can't use, because you know, it's just be everywhere, all around. I really don't have a plan. I just start painting and just, well, go with my gut. And when I, you know, I just want to say I'm using this script brush also for splashing some paint, because I've noticed that with the script brush I can get smaller stars, so I'm using it for smaller stars. And you can also use for stars, well, I suppose if you did paint stars, you probably have your own way of painting them, and that is fine. You should do it then in your way and the way you like it. So, but if you don't, you can use a toothbrush, you can use some old, I'm gonna use that also, because with that I could just get the smallest stars. And now, and see that they are not either very perfect. And where is it? There you go. See, this is just an old flat brush, and I'm gonna use that one now. Just load it with paint. I'm not sure. It's okay. Maybe just a little bit more water. Just a little bit. I'm picking up more paint. And see, wow, this is amazing. When you want to do those beautiful small stars, I hope you can see that on camera. Maybe on this one, I'm not sure. Hope you can. It's just millions of small stars, and I love painting small stars. See, I didn't add too much water, just a little bit, and I'm drying it. Now here, see, there's really not much water here. And when you do that, when you brush, see, wow, this is just amazing. I love that. I love that, you know, and just have this gazillions and gazillions of small stars. I love small stars. And I'm gonna remove this now, and just here in the bottom do also a couple of splashes. As I said, don't worry, we will cover this again with the black. And there you go. Just so many beautiful stars. We won't be adding any more small stars, so now I can rinse my brush, and this is how my finger looks. So I'm gonna clean that one also. So there you go, and we're gonna add a little bit more those bigger stars. I'm gonna use again round brush, smaller round brush, and add some bigger but also not too big stars. I'm sorry if some of those will end up on the camera. And there you go. There's just a lot of those stars, and my moon will not really dry. I'm gonna dry it, and we'll see if it's gonna be necessary to add a bit more texture. So now it's dry, and well, I think now we can see that it does ask for a bit more texture, and we're gonna use this time a smaller round brush, and add some texture to it, you know, here and there. I'm just, again, this is dry, painting wet on dry. I did not add water. I did not pre-wet the moon, but I'm rinsing my brush, and as I'm rinsing my brush, I'm adding water and just moving it from here and there. I'm not adding paint, only water, and rinsing ever so often my brush, because I don't want the white to go everywhere. I just want it in some parts. And there you go. See here, maybe some here. I'm gonna add a bit more here. This will dry again lighter, and you can see me, you can hear me rinsing my brush and not picking up the paint, just rinsing it. And I'm gonna add a little bit more white here, because I know it will dry lighter. Maybe some here and here, maybe just a little, and I think that would be just fine. And you see, when I added water, the paper was wet from previous adding of the water and the paint, and I have here some blooms, and I actually love those blooms on the moon, and they will dry very beautifully, so I'm not gonna remove it, I'm gonna leave it. And now I will just dry it again. Okay, now we dried it, and I just want to add a couple of more splashes to the moon. So where's my script brush? There we go. And I'm gonna use this script brush, and I'm gonna take, well, quite amount of white gouache, but also I'm trying to make it as saturated as it can be, not very watered down. And I'm gonna splash on my moon. And when this dry, it will also just do a beautiful effect on that. It won't be so, the difference won't be so drastic. And that's it. Just lighting. See, you can just, I know that white gouache dries lighter, but I'm really never sure how light it will dry. So I'm just, well, always thinking whether I will add more or not. And I do want those, some differences in the moon to show. So I'm adding a little bit more of that white. That is really a matter of your preference. If your moon is white enough, if you have enough of the white in it, don't add anymore. But I wanted some more, and I'm just going around and softening the edge between my white gouache and the rest of the moon. And I think this will definitely be it. I won't be adding more. And that's it. Okay, let's dry this and just finish our mountain. Well, it's dry, and now we're gonna just finish our mountain. And I'm not sure if you're painting along with me. See what I was telling you, that the paint will dry in your palette if you use a fan near it, and that's actually what happened here. Doesn't matter, I'll just set it. I need more paint anyway. And as I was saying, I'm not sure if you're painting with me, and if you are, well, good for you. And if you're not, I hope you're enjoying yourself, maybe with some coffee or tea or whatever you drink, and maybe some snacks. This is not really a movie, but you know, I hope you can enjoy watching this and just have fun, you know. I hope I'm not boring you. And well, see, that would just, when we do this, when we sprinkle white gouache and paint over it, it tends to show again, because, well, white gouache is creamy, and, well, on the watercolors it can appear again. So just keep that in mind, that you would probably need a lot of pigment, so your sprinkles wouldn't show. And if you did decide to paint your mountain after the moon, well, good for you. And if you didn't, if you're doing it in the same order as I do, just keep in mind that you will have to use a little bit more pigment to cover those white sprinkles. But that's also fine, not really that difficult. And you can also change the shape of your mountain, and I'm just thinking about that. I like how it has these two pointy tips, so I'm gonna change shape a little bit. And you can of course shape your mountain the way you like it. Doesn't have to have the same shape as mine. So just reshaping it a little bit. And there you go, I like it better this way. So that's it. Now we're done with our mountain, and I'm just looking at that moon and thinking, maybe I should do something more to it. It looks kind of boring, It is a focal point and it looks kind of boring. So I think I am gonna add something to it. Maybe some, you know, moon has this sort of lines. So maybe adding something like that. And maybe some dots like here with that. Again, this will again dry lighter. So let's just always remind ourselves of that. That those differences won't be so visible. But I do want the moon to have some glow somewhere. So I decided to do that, to, I suppose, make it glow here and there. And like that. Like octopus. Now my moon looks like octopus. So like that. What are you doing? Doesn't matter, I like it. With those, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use some white tissue and wipe that excess of that white. And that is actually what I was talking about. This is just what I do. I always, when I'm painting out of my head, I'm just always, you know, just never happy, just adding this, that, and I really never know how it will turn out to be. So that is the reason why I really, well, don't do much tutorials out of my head, because when I paint from my head, and of course usually not filming, I'm just playing and I'm just adding this or that, like hundreds of layers. And well, just with playing it, I get the look that I want. And well, I suppose that is how I do out of my head. I don't really have a plan. I'm just adding color and adding this or that, and I don't think that would be a quite good tutorial. If I would be doing that, I would pretty much bore you. You would just say, will you finish already? You know, because I usually don't. I just go back and forth and back and forth. You see? We all do that. I do that also. Just go back and forth and back and forth. And probably know you. But you know, sometimes, well, I'm not gonna say you asked for it, but some of you did. So, oh my god, I think this will be fine. Now, maybe I just shouldn't do anything more. I'm gonna pick up some, you know, maybe add, maybe that would make a difference. Adding some more of that indigo, and maybe that would just add those shadows and differences in pigment that I was just looking for. And yeah, I think I'm gonna like that right now. I think I'm gonna like that. Now that white also pops even more, you know, when adding those darks. So I think this will be my answer. Maybe you already finished with your moon, I'm sorry. But you know, I'm just playing, and if you're drinking your coffee and watching my video, well, hope you're enjoying. There you go, just a little bit more here, there. Yeah, that is what I was missing. I was just trying to get it lighter and lighter, but I was just really missing those darker parts, not the lighter parts. I won't do anything more. This is it. And I will dry that. Okay, now it's dry. And okay, I was just looking for my white gel pen because I'm gonna add a couple of dots here on the moon. And if you don't have a gel pen, that is fine. You just use white gouache. I did not use white gouache this time because I don't want to sprinkle it again in my mountain. But maybe you have, but you should cover it and, well, maybe avoid that from happening. And like this, just add those couple of lines, you know, just some highlights. And that's it. I don't think I will be doing anything more to it. I like it just the way it is. I don't think it asks for any more highlights. And maybe just one more thing. I just realized I'm gonna turn the page around, and I would just add a little bit more here, because now that I'm looking, it just looks the same all the way and around, and I don't want that. I just wanted to have it was just all the way dark, and I just wanted to, there you go, this will be, that's it, that's it, that's it, that's it. Maybe just a couple of, see, that's what I'm talking about again. I will have to cover it because I know they will end up on that. There you go, just a couple of those sprinkles. And I'm gonna tap in some of them, just to smudge them a little bit. And that's it. Now we're done. Maybe you've done a while ago. You finished it, but well, as I said, I like to add things and take away things, and a lot when I'm painting from my head. So, well, I guess I hope you liked this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you tried painting it with me. It really is quite easy, as you could have seen, and well, your moon probably looks a little bit different than mine, but that is fine. And well, I hope you enjoyed it and had fun. And well, I guess if you did try it, please, if you have an Instagram account, just tag me so I could see it. I would love to see it. And well, if you don't, maybe you should just comment and say that you liked this video and tried it, and well, tell me your impressions on how it turned out. And well, I would love also to hear what you think about this video and what you liked about it, what you didn't like. Do you like this sort of videos? Should I be doing more of those or less? Do you like more short videos with time-lapse videos with voiceover, or this real-time video? I would love to hear your feedback. So please comment, share this video, like, of course, if you liked it, and if you haven't still, well, just please subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. It would help me, it would help grow this channel. And well, without further ado, I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.